Older city offices will actually be closed today in honor of Officer Talley. And in terms of updates on the trial, we don't know when that will actually take place. We know that the defense has asked for extra time to assess their client's mental state. The prosecution said that they'll be filing additional charges in the weeks to come. The judge has agreed to set a hearing, a status conference, about 60 to 90 days from now, and the suspect will remain in jail without bond until then. John?
Just heartbreaking. Thank you, Lucy. All right, surging coronavirus cases in France could soon overwhelm hospitals, forcing doctors to choose who they have the resources to treat as the number of patients in intensive care hits a new high. CNN has reporters covering the pandemic around the world.
I'm Jim in Paris, where the COVID-19 infection numbers continue to head in the wrong direction. ICU usage in France, for example, now surpasses that of the second wave of the epidemic back in November. After weeks of lockdown light here as the government tried to balance COVID restrictions with keeping the economy going and schools open, there's a growing expectation that President Macron may be forced to impose tougher constraints this week, perhaps making a decision as early as tomorrow's weekly health defense meeting. The morning newspaper here had a very apt headline over a picture of President Macron. What is he waiting for?
I'm Salma Abdulaziz in London. Prime Minister Boris Johnson held a press conference after stay-at-home orders were lifted in England on Monday. He said these new freedoms would be prized by those who made sacrifices under months of lockdown, but it's unclear what the UK's defences fortifications are against a new wave, if there is a new wave of this pandemic. He said the authorities would work flat out to continue to vaccinate people as quickly as possible and called on everyone to remain disciplined and remain vigilant.
I am Stefano Pozzebon in Bogota, Colombia, and in Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro replaced 6 cabinet members on Monday, a move aimed at putting more loyal figures into key positions. Among the ministers replaced were Brazil's defense minister, the foreign affairs minister, and the country's attorney general. It's understood that Bolsonaro intends to put more loyal and closer advisors into these key positions to try direct the country as Brazil scrambles to contain a new wave of the coronavirus pandemic.
I'm Fred Pleiken in Belgrade as Serbia has put together an impressive vaccination rollout. In fact, things are going so well here that the country is even offering free vaccinations to foreigners, making it a regional vaccination hub. Now, most of the folks who are coming here are coming from neighboring countries, but there are also people coming from EU countries as well.
We want to remember some of the more than 550,000 Americans lost to coronavirus. Sergeant Shane Owens served nearly 30 years in the detentions department of the Broward County, Florida Sheriff's Office. Colleagues called him a no-nonsense supervisor who taught his officers how to be the best. He was just 48 years old. Dr. Michael Bennett pushed hard for mask wearing and social distancing in his tiny town of Greenfield, Missouri, over the resistance of some residents. His ex-wife said his patients loved their doc, who hunted, fished, and raised cattle, because he was a good old boy. Tony Murray and his husband, Mark Collins, love casinos, cooking, and Mark's nephew, Jason Collins, the first openly gay player in the NBA. Jason credits the men as guides and advisors who played a crucial part in his coming out. He tells the New York Times, "For a confused young boy, I can think of no better role model of love and compassion." We'll be right back.
아, 분리수거를 해야 돼.
into a very exciting period for commercial exploration of space. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of activity in low Earth orbit. There may even be opportunities in lunar orbit, even lunar surface operations. The other thing that's very exciting to us is high-speed travel, you know, and we think that we can evolve our vehicles into vehicles that could take people between continents at a very rapid pace. And so that's something that we're really excited about as well. I think the climate issue is a key part. We're not just trying to do high-speed travel, we're trying to do sustainable high-speed travel. I think, you know, modern tools, modern materials, and a lot of great hard work will generate a high-speed vehicle that is sustainable. And that is really the core of whatever we're working on is that idea of long-term sustainability.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
The number of unaccompanied migrant children in border facilities has reached its highest level. As of Sunday, 5,767 children were in Customs and Border Protection custody. But the overall number of unaccompanied migrants in U.S. government custody ticked down slightly from more than 18,000 last week. The latest data points to the Biden administration's struggle to reduce the number of unaccompanied children in its care.
Federal prosecutors have filed sex trafficking charges against Jeffrey Epstein's alleged co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. Prosecutors say Maxwell recruited and groomed a 14-year-old girl to engage in sex acts with Epstein as recently as 2004. The new charges were filed Monday in a superseding indictment. Maxwell was previously charged by New York prosecutors with conspiracy and enticing minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts.
A bill in Arkansas that would ban gender-affirming surgeries and hormone therapies for people under 18 is headed to the desk of the state's Republican governor. He signs it into law and will be the first anti-transgender measure of its kind. The legislation is the first to pass among a series of similar bills introduced by Republican lawmakers in more than 17 states so far this year, aimed at restricting the rights of transgender youth.
The mother of one of the D.C. police officers badly injured in the U.S. Capitol insurrection tells CNN she is outraged at former President Trump's lies that his supporters were, quote, hugging and kissing police during the riot. Officer Michael Fanone was tased and beaten with a flagpole during the insurrection. He even heard rioters screaming, quote, kill him with his own gun.
What goes through my mind is really outrage that not only the 850 MPD officers that were there, but officers from different jurisdictions, as well as Capitol Hill Police. It's diminishing. It is devaluing. The thing that is so profound is after he made those statements, the silence that followed, and where was the outrage from other people who were there, from congressmen who were there? For me to say anything to Trump it wouldn't matter, because he just can't hear. It's all the other people that are so complicit in this. That's who I would speak to, is that how dare you take advantage of these people who were defending and fighting for their lives that day to save these people, preserve, democracy, civility, to restore the Capitol to what it's supposed to be. Where are you? With all of these officers stood with you, why don't you stand with them?
Those are excellent questions. Officer Fanone suffered a heart attack, a concussion, and he is still dealing with a traumatic brain injury and PTSD. One man has been charged with his assault. She makes such a good point. Those officers were not just protecting their own lives once they were under siege, they were protecting the lawmakers who were inside. Of course. And she's just saying, where are you lawmakers? Where are the thanks? Where are you standing with the officers now?
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you enable and excuse this big lie that President Trump is repeating again by trying to spread this fiction that the protesters were kissing and hugging police officers, when we've seen with our own eyes the violence. And the fact that it takes an officer's mother to try to perhaps bring some shame, some backbone, some resolve to these lawmakers who are so willing for political expediency to buy into the big lie still? How dare you?
It's really sickening. It's really sickening, actually. You don't show up in tactical gear and helmets if you're just going to go hug and kiss people. They brought flagpoles. They brought bear spray. They came armed with weapons.
Absolutely.
And New Day continues right now.
Prosecutors opened their case seeking justice for George Floyd, playing in full the 9-minute video.
There is a growing crowd in what officers perceive to be a threat, causing the officers to divert their attention.
America is on trial right now. We're tired of people being killed and slaughtered.
We have so much to look forward to, but right now I'm scared.
COVID-19 cases are again on the rise in more than half of states.
This is deeply concerning because every time we've seen it in the past, it's led to another surge.
This is New Day with Allison Camerata and John Berman.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and all around the world. This is New Day. John Berman is off. John Avlon joins me. Great to have you.
Good morning. All right.
An emotional warning from the director of the CDC as the U.S. surpasses 550,000 American deaths. Dr. Rochelle Walensky says she sees trouble ahead.
Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom. We have so much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now, I'm scared.
Here's what she's seeing. Cases are rising in nearly half of all states. This time, there's a rise in cases and hospitalizations among younger people. In Michigan, new cases are spiking the most in 10 to 19-year-olds. Hospitalizations there are up more than 600% for people in their 30s. People in their 30s, and 800% for adults in their 40s. So we will speak to the White House's senior advisor on the pandemic in just a few minutes.
Also this morning, the prosecution in the Derek Chauvin murder trial set to continue questioning witnesses after starting their case by playing the entire video of George Floyd's death to the jurors. A key witness, Donald Wynn Williams, is expected to take the stand again. Williams overheard Mr. Floyd pleading for his life as Chauvin put his knee on Floyd's neck for an agonizing 9 minutes and 29 seconds. We'll speak with George Floyd's brother in just a moment. We begin with CNN's Omar Jimenez live in Minneapolis with the emotional start to this trial.
Well, good morning, John. This is day 14, but in many ways, this week has felt like a new beginning for this trial, this true test of what criminal accountability looks like for policing in America. And opening statements gave us a clear indication of what each side is going to argue, either in favor of or against Derek Chauvin.
The most important numbers you will hear in this trial are 929. What happened in those 9 minutes and 29 seconds?
9 minutes and 29 seconds. That's the corrected length of time prosecutors say Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck.
I can breathe.
During day one of opening statements, prosecutor Jerry Blackwell played a bystander's video in full for the jury.
Mr. Derek Chauvin betrayed this badge when he used excessive and unreasonable force upon the body of Mr. George Floyd.
Chauvin faces 3 counts, second and third degree murder and second degree manslaughter. The defense argues that Floyd died of previous health conditions and his methamphetamine and fentanyl use. An autopsy said drug use was a significant condition, but it listed his cause of death as heart failure during restraint.
Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career. The use of force is not attractive, but it is a necessary component of policing.
Oh, no. Check his phone.
Chauvin's attorney also argues the crowd that formed at the scene distracted the officers.
They're screaming at him, causing the officers to divert their attention from the care of Mr. Floyd to the threat that was growing in front of them.
The jury heard testimony from 3 witnesses, including the 911 dispatcher who called a police sergeant while watching surveillance video of the scene. At one point, she said, even thinking the real-time video froze, given how long the officers were on top of Floyd.
My instincts were telling me that something's wrong.
The jury also heard from Donald Williams, a mixed martial arts instructor who was at the scene. He's trained in the use of chokeholds and says he yelled to Chauvin of the blood choke he had Floyd in.
Every time his shoulder is moving, he's pushing that pressure down on his neck.
The nation has been waiting 10 months for this trial. Demonstrators flooded the surrounding streets outside the courthouse in Minneapolis. Floyd's brother was in the courtroom Monday. He says this trial is a test for the justice system.
America is on trial right now. Minneapolis, Minnesota, they will have to get this right. We're tired of people being killed and slaughtered. If you can't get justice for this as a black man in America, what can you get justice for?
And testimony is going to pick up with Donald Williams. He's going to finish what he started yesterday. And back in May, I should say, he told CNN just days after he witnessed what happened to Floyd from just feet away that he believed these officers wanted to kill that man. Speaking of Floyd and of Chauvin, he said he knew what he was doing. Now, court gets back into session in just about an hour and a half. The judge is going to start by hearing motions involving the broadcast of the testimony from 4 witnesses who were minors at the time of George Floyd's death. But then we'll hear from more witnesses in this trial that is really a culmination of everything that has been building over the last 10 months since Floyd's death. Allison?
Omar, thank you very much for all of that reporting. And joining us now is George Floyd's brother, Philonise Floyd. Also with us, Benjamin Crump. He is one of the attorneys for George Floyd's family. Gentlemen, it's always really nice to see you, and I'm sorry that it's under these circumstances. Philonise, tell us what that was like being in the courtroom yesterday.
It was an emotional roller coaster to everybody else. It was a case in the cards. To me, it was my brother, somebody that I grew up with, eating with, sleeping in the same bed with, going fishing with, just watching him dance with my mother. Those are the things that I think about when I think about my brother. He was a protector. He was someone who we can go to when we were in trouble and in need of anything. Hopefully we will get justice because we have 27 million reasons why we should get justice.
Philonise, many of us did not know that video of your brother under Derek Chauvin's knee was longer than we had previously known. I know so many people who are not related to George Floyd who had to turn away, who can't make it through those 9+ minutes of watching that video. Have you seen that whole video?
I was in court. I seen the entire video. The first time I seen the video, I think I spoke to you a while back. But every time that I have a chance to even look at a partial piece of the video, I just ask myself, where's the humanity? Life is precious. We shouldn't be killing each other. There's only one race, and that's the human race.
Yeah, Philonise, you and I spoke in June, right after this happened, and we talked about all of that, and you said the same things. Of course, there's no other way for you as his brother to interpret it. Were you able, Philonise, to see Derek Chauvin's face and his reaction during that?
I seen him. I watched him. I watched the reaction when the witnesses were responding to questions that they were asked. Pretty much, he's in there. He's fighting for his life, just like I'm fighting for my brother's life. We seen the video. We have facts. They're in there trying to assassinate his character. When you don't have facts, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, Ben. So the defense has tried to introduce all of these other contributing factors, they say, that would have led to George Floyd's death, his underlying health conditions, his drug use. In terms of the assassination of character, millions of Americans struggle with substance abuse. I personally don't know a single family that isn't touched by addiction of some kind. So do you think that still works? I mean, the introduction of his drug use, do you think that will work to acquit Derek Chauvin?
Well, I know the rules are different when it's a marginalized person of color that is killed unjustifiably by the police. Allison, history has shown us, you and I have talked many times about these type of cases where police kill people in some of the most unbelievable ways, but yet because they're a black person, they engage in the intellectual justification of discrimination. And you're absolutely right. Opioid use in America is an epidemic. And so are we now going to say, because George Floyd had a dependency issue like millions of other Americans, that what we saw in that video was acceptable? I think we're better than that, America. We have to have equal justice under the law for all Americans, whether they're black or white.
Philonise, what's it like for your family to hear those things brought up about your brother?
It's troublesome just hearing everything, but the fact that my brother was upright, and before he was on the ground with his hands behind his back in the prone position, and that guy had his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. He tortured my brother to death with a smile on his face with his hands in his pocket.
9 minutes and 29 seconds.
9 minutes and 29 seconds. But the thing about it is, nobody tried to render aid. None of those officers, the people who tried, they were trying to mace him. He was trying to mace him. So it shows you what he was doing to my brother. He didn't care. He didn't care. My brother was lifeless at one time.
And Philonise, to be clear, did you know it was 9 minutes and 29 seconds before yesterday?
They didn't, the video, every time I watch it, I just hear 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I never try to watch the entire video. It's not something that you want to watch. Your brother tortured and screaming and asking for our mom and tell my kids I love them. I can't breathe. He was basically like a fish out of water, gasping for air.
Yeah, and that was a great analogy that Dr. Williams made, that comparison to watching a fish suffocate and then watching a human being in George Floyd suffocate from lack of oxygen.
Yeah. Ben, one of the things that the defense attorney said was, Chauvin didn't do anything that he wasn't trained to do. That was his training. What's your response to that? I mean, isn't there some sort of legal code or playbook that we can go to find out, are you supposed to stay on someone's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds?
Yeah, I think you're going to hear, as the prosecutor said in his opening argument, Allison, that the police chief himself is going to come in and testify that those things that were done by Derek Chauvin was inappropriate, that it was contrary to their policy, not only to police policy, but it defies all common sense, logic, and most of all, as Philonise said, humanity. Where's the humanity? And I have to say, they're coming up with every excuse in the book other than what we saw in that video. They're saying it was trace amount of drugs in George Floyd's system. They said it was some alleged health condition. Allison, they're even saying it was the bystanders' fault.
마지막 10개만 하고 그만하겠습니다.
George Floyd's neck. It's just asinine. And we rebuke when they come and say that this is a hard case. This murder case is not hard when you watch this torture video of George Floyd. And if George Floyd would have been a white American citizen, nobody would be saying this is a hard case. Everyone would be screaming bloody murder, and they would expect justice to come swiftly.
Ben, I want to play just a moment of that because the defense said that Officer Chauvin was distracted by the crowd.